what you've been here. Again, I'm Deanna Rodriguez. I'm with Entergy New Orleans out of Louisiana and originally from Texas, as I was just reminded. But I have a great panel here today, and it is a theme that has been consistently discussed throughout the entire day. And so as much as we wanted to hold all of this important information to ourselves and keep it to ourselves, I think this is actually a really good time to talk about it, because you've heard pieces and parts of it. You've heard different perspectives from different companies and different agencies and employers. I think what I'd like to do today is make sure that you speak to what you've heard and also speak to who you represent. So I'm not going to tell your resumes for you, but I would like to mention that we have folks on this panel from from universities, from a utility perspective, from professional engineers perspective, and then also from workforce development. So we have the range of opinions and the range of experiences. I'm going to ask a couple of you to opine on this, but I know everybody's coming at it from a very different perspective. But what we've talked and what you've heard about today is the speed at which everything is changing. AI is changing everything. And we're also hearing a lot of, will my job be replaced? If it's replaced, in what way? How do I move quickly enough? So it seems that there's certainly a gap in either where we're going or how we're getting there. So I'm curious, Missy, if you want to start and then tell me what you think that gap is and how your organization will be addressing it.
Yeah, I wish I could make a date to come back and talk with you in about 6 months on this very topic. We've just convened an industry table to really bring people together to address this as an issue. One of the things that we are most deliberate about within CEWD is the importance of bringing players together for effective solutioning across the sector. So I don't think I go a day, probably many of you don't either, without somebody bringing AI and data centers into every conversation. And so we are finding a lot of companies are going individually and looking at their strategic plans, looking at how AI will impact jobs. What do people need to know? Where do agents fit on your org charts as we move forward? How do you manage agents differently than you manage human beings? What job sets or what jobs will be replaced? What skill sets need to be enhanced? I heard a comment the other day that we may actually need more engineers because of AI instead of fewer, because the factors of the way we work will be changing. So all that to say, I don't know, but I do know that individual companies have placed how they respond around AI and workforce development as a page one issue. I think as we first started looking at AI, the conversations will, what should we be doing? What are the right questions to ask? And so we can't generate the solutions if we don't know what questions we should be asking. So CEWD is forming a table, bringing employer partners, union partners together so we can put the right things into the mix and figure out what the solve-fors are. Big area of conversation at a recent meeting on this topic was wearables in the industry. How can we make sure in an industry that is safety first, as people are going out into potentially dangerous situations, we might be able to take advantage of clothing and monitoring the work that's happening and saying, bloop, 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 don't do that. This is going to be bad. There's a gentleman actually from your company who was talking about how his physical therapist has sent him a tablet, and he is able to do his PT work by somebody watching in real time from some big brother location to say, turn yourself more to the left, turn yourself more to the right. So you look at the technology that's enabling people to do their work, not just more efficiently, not just quicker, but more safely, really important for the industry. Again, wrapping up to say, would love to come back when we have more information. I know it's a page one issue, and looking forward to uniting the industry around collective solutions so that we are prepared for what's next.
Suzanna?
Thank you. So if you can think about what our job is, right? We need to ensure that the workforce is prepared, and AI is a huge part of that. So right now, we're trying to understand and work with companies and universities about how to create the AI programs, because it's not about availability, it's about accessibility and ensuring that we facilitate these opportunities, this training, these programs for our students and for our professionals, So that's what we're trying to understand right now. What's the bridge that we play? What's the facilitation role that we play with companies and universities to ensure that we are providing the right AI tools, right, for the future, not just for today, but for the future.
I'm going to ask Randy. You started a little bit ago with what your community college is doing in terms of a gap. Are you hearing about this gap? Is it only AI? Is it hands-on training? What is it that you see a clamoring for, both from the industry perspective and then also from the student perspective?
I'll start with the industry first. So we have a really strong partnership with Amazon Web Services. They made a $35 billion commitment. They're building data centers in increasingly rural areas. Northern Virginia is all over with data centers, but they're expanding across the state. It's not just AWS. All of our colleges, all 23 of our colleges, train electricians, plumbers, welders, HVAC technicians. We could quadruple the number of each of those that we put out and not meet the demand in Virginia, not just from AWS, but 85% of the people who build and maintain and run data centers are not AWS employees. They're local contractors. So, you could take energy out of that sentence and insert healthcare. You could insert any number of fields because of the grain of the workforce across industries, because of the birth dearth, because there are fewer and fewer high school seniors who are graduating. We could triple or quadruple our output and probably not meet demand just in Virginia. From a student standpoint, our new strategic plan, because of the issues that I just mentioned about the declining birth rates over the last decade and the cliff that we're going to hit in enrollment, we are very focused on adults in Virginia who either have high school alone, no high school, or they've got a bag of credits from college, but they don't have a credential. That's 3 million working age adults in Virginia who have less than a college degree or a college credential, an industry credential. Those 3 million folks are the people we are targeting, and they, through the training that we do with them, and I won't bore you with all the details, but we have a very, very successful workforce development training program called Fast Forward that caters to those folks, that runs at night, that runs on weekends, that provides significant financial support to the degree where we've graduated about 750 power line workers for Dominion and the rural electric cooperatives. 90% of them pay nothing. We cover all the cost. So those students are much different than probably all of us were coming out undeclared when we went to college, and we didn't know what. These folks are 35 years old. They got a couple kids. They're working 3 jobs, and they'll climb a pole or they'll learn how to be a nuclear technician, and they are very focused, and they know what they want.
I just wanted to add something to that. I saw lots of jaws drop as you talked about the number of number of students you're preparing, yet not being able to meet the demand because it's so high. Just to help frame that from a national perspective, in case folks are curious, when we talk about needing a historic number of jobs filled, here's a couple of data points for you to really underscore why this is such an important topic and why workforce came up in so many conversations that weren't intended to be workforce conversations. Looking at the trades, expected retirements of about 40% over the next couple of years, projected shortfall of 300,000 welders in the next year or two. We need to hire 80,000 electricians every year for the next 10 years. The uranium portion of the industry needs to double their workforce to make sure they're mining for the right fuels to support the nuclear industry. 376,000 people need to be hired in the nuclear side as well. And with engineers, you can put in any kind of adjective in front of the word engineer, and that is a job position that is keeping people up at night because we don't have enough of any kind of them. So it's not a Virginia issue. It's not any particular issue. It is across the the ecosystem, and it really does underscore why we all need to be working together to prioritize workforce development and address as a sector.
And I'm going to you next, Dave, because from operating a utility, and from where I sit is it's cost, right? So you have to employ people. If they leave, then you've lost people, and it's replenishing your workforce. How do you manage it, and what are you doing as a local agency?
Well, first I want to start out with something that occurred to me as a number of the speakers were recognizing the importance of growing the workforce. And I decided that I wanted to challenge the industry to meaningfully fund and support workforce development programs at all different levels. You know, you can't just depend on the school districts or the community college districts or even the local government agencies. So there's a big gap in the resources that are available to help people who need to enter that industry or who don't even know about the industry. So I'm going to talk about what we're doing at SMUD, and a lot of it came to pass from a Brookings Institution study that came to Sacramento and says, you have a big opportunity gap in your community, and there's a lot of your community that's being left behind. Now, we had already identified that we had, environmental justice issues in Sacramento, and we all know that we have, and everybody in the country has communities that have traditionally been disadvantaged. So we made a mandate to our staff to eliminate carbon from our electricity sources by the year 2030. But we also made a commitment to make sure that as we transition to a clean energy economy, that we're going to use that as an opportunity to raise the tide for everybody. And part of that is that we are focusing a lot of our workforce development on disadvantaged communities. So it's not exclusive. We work with everybody, and we want to get everybody to have an opportunity or even be aware of the opportunities in our industry. But we figure, well, let's talk to the people who don't even see that as a pathway. Let's talk to them first and give them a leg up. So we're unusual for a utility company, at least I believe it's pretty unusual. We actually act as the glue for our region's. We're a significant player in our region's workforce development and economic development efforts. We're able to provide staff and programs that help tie together all the different stakeholders that are trying to work on this problem. And so we've been able to, actually as a region to do a better job of doing that, of getting the community colleges linked to, helping the community college be better linked to industry, helping labor be better linked to the high schools, to all the nonprofits we have over 50 nonprofits in our area that are working on advancing people's opportunity both in STEM fields and in vocational fields. So we support them, and we help connect them to the higher level education and training that's necessary to really prepare people to get that first job in the industry.
Thank you. Jeyben, I haven't forgotten about you, but I'd like to bring you in from the perspective of outreach and what you do on the Hill, and then how does that translate to supporting the industry or in energy overall, not just utilities, but every energy industry overall?
Well, the thing about the Hill, you have to understand it touches every single industry possible. Right. We're here talking about energy, and we know tax, we know trade, we know immigration. But I used to work in the Senate Finance Committee. I used to work for a member named Orrin Hatch, and Senator Hatch would get invited to the Grammys every year. My first year there, I was like, well, why is he going to the Grammys? He used to write policies that affected songwriters. Did you ever think about the Hill when you think about songwriters? Right? It's everything. Yeah. As per, this first question in the workforce gap, when you look at, and I apologize because I said I am not an engineer. I have notes that I want to, specifically mention. Since 2020, laws like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Inflation Reduction Act have accelerated investment in transmission, generation, resilience, but as we are talking right now, the workforce pipeline is not keeping up. So this is why, again, my point back to encouraging people interested in energy or anything, any industry, to consider a congressional internship, because policies is now directly shaping how fast projects move. So while I'm a big fan of Hispanic and Energy, while, this is a great program where you are, phased or introduced to a member of Congress, you don't have to wait once a year to come and talk to a member of Congress. And those are like just your basic 101 of understanding how the Hill works. And that's why, again, I'm attaching these policies that affect the energy to, at minimum, do an internship. I don't want you to stop being an engineer. I don't want you to stop from going into energy. But at least with an internship, you can go to the Hill and learn the process, like how this affects me as I become a professional in an engineer sector. So then you can, be able to advocate for you, for your company, and for your industry.
Can I just add something really quickly? Because since I worked, 7 years on the Hill, what Jeyben is saying is absolutely on point. It's exactly what Jose Nino said earlier. It's who you know. The fact that everyone in this room now knows Jeyben, and he's offering to connect you all with an internship, right, on the Hill. This is what changes our community. It's the people that open themselves. It's like Judge Diaz said earlier, you got to reach back, you got to reach sideways and pull forward. That's exactly what Jeyben's doing right now. I doubt that a lot of people understand the impact and the value of an internship. And I know I'm here to talk about STEM, but whether you're talking about the STEM committee or talking about the finance committee or the tax committee, that experience that you have at 20 years old will change your life. It will change the way you think. It's the way that you reach out to others. It's the way you just think about how policies impact everyday lives, right? Or I hate the word everyday lives, but impacts everyone. So I just want to say that because, again, you don't run into Jeyben's every day. So please take advantage of his offer for anyone that you know that would benefit from an internship.
Thank you. I think that's great advice, and I don't think you have to be 20 to go do that either. Yes. So I suggest if you're mid-career, and we talked about that earlier, disrupt your own career. If you wanted to go do that, I suggest you do that.